But the fact of the matter is there's still players that we love that we missed out on for whatever reason, couldn't get the draft spot. So today, Nate and I are going to be talking about rookie targets that we're going to buy now that we missed out on in the 2024 NFL rookie draft. Nate, who is your first player that you just didn't quite get enough of?
Honestly, I thought I would end up with a ton of him, but I just didn't have the right draft slots to get him. Jalen Polk, someone who right after the draft, we saw sitting about the 203, 204. More recently, I've seen him falling to the back half of the second round, as late as the 208, 209, 210 even. Because of this Javon Baker hype, because it's a rookie quarterback, hey, Demario Douglas is still there, who I like a good bit. But as the hype continues to stick around for Baker, Polk continues to be a great value. This is a second-round pick. We're talking about Baker was a fourth-round pick. I do think Baker's talented, but I think Polk's better. Objectively, before the draft, I thought Polk was better than Baker. The Patriots did as well. And I'm excited about Polk being the wide receiver 1 for Drake May. I think he has that within him. I think Demario Douglas is a wide receiver 1 to start the season. But by the end of the season, we could see Polk take over that role. The way that he plays as an X receiver, his physicality, his ability to win at the catch point, above the rim. He has great hands, super strong hands. And he's a good route runner too. So I really like what Jalen Polk brings to the table, and he's becoming very accessible. I missed out on him, like I said, but you could throw a 25-second, probably pick him up right now. Calvin Ridley, Alvin Kamara, Kendra Miller, one of those Saints running backs. You can move one of those guys to go get Jalen Polk as well. And I think Polk's probably going to give you a pretty good return on investment rather quickly, because outside of Demario Douglas, there is not a lot of established wide receiver talent there.
I would do the 25-second. I have no problem with that at all. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, let's talk about a late breakout at South Carolina. First-round wide receiver, though. And that is Carolina Panthers wide receiver Xavier Legette. So, yeah, late breakout, we talked about it. He had some off-the-field issues at South Carolina that hung him up a little bit. And I like what Carolina did. The fact of the matter is it's one of those things where, yeah, they brought in more talent, but, hey, man, hungry boats drink more water or whatever. This offense is going to get better. He's going to be an integral part of that, okay? And I was kind of browsing around. And, look, the fact of the matter is he inexpensive? Not really. He's like a projected late 25 first. But right now, looking at the wide receiver class for 2025, I don't think, aside from Luther Burden, there's a lot of people I'm super excited about. Emeka Egbuka is there. And I'm just looking at the rankings here. There's not anybody here aside from Tez Johnson, who's not going to be a first-round pick in your rookie NFL drafts, that I'm super excited about. Just being completely honest with you, I know Evan Stewart is a name.
Chet McMillan.
He's there. Not on this ranking list I'm looking at right now.
That's a shame.
Not anywhere that I can see, because when I try to scroll a little bit, it goes like all the way down to the bottom of the page. So it's a little draftcountdown.com. Get on it. But still, I will gladly move a late 25 first for a guy who I think could be a massive contributor. And what we're looking at to get him, like I said, late 25 first. What about this? Let's say you want to move on from an aging player, moving Terry McLaurin. His value is still pretty high. Can probably do for Xavier Legette straight up, try to add a third on top of getting Legette, possibly. What are your thoughts about that, Nate?
I think you can definitely do that. I think a lot of teams will take what they expect to be, the safer points with Terry McLaurin, and then not take the risk with Xavier Legette. So I think you can definitely make that kind of move.
Hey, let's move on. Who is your next rookie target that you missed out on?
So when I say I missed out on him, I still draft him in a lot of places, but I will not be happy until I have 100% rostership of Marshawn Lloyd, running back out of USC. I think this guy should be the RB3 or 4 in the class. Kind of a toss-up between him and Blake Corum. Guys like, Blake Corum have surpassed him pretty consensus, as well as Jalen Wright, the running back for the Dolphins that they drafted in the 4th round. Marshawn Lloyd's being slept on continuously, despite me shouting his name from the top of the rooftops here at the Dynasty Rewind week in and week out. Marshawn Lloyd still being slept on, going in the 3rd round still. He is the RB2 behind Josh Jacobs, and Josh Jacobs had a lot of tread taken off the tires, and there's not much there that, if he could go down at any moment, and you're getting a talented running back in one of the most efficient offenses in the league. Even if Josh Jacobs is healthy, we've talked about the contract. It's a 4-year deal, more likely a 1, maybe 2-year deal before they move on from him. And Marshawn Lloyd's going to see touches this year, even with Josh Jacobs there. The coaching staff has already talked about it. They want to get him involved quickly and early. his ability to break off big plays and be explosive is going to be a great asset and complement to what Josh Jacobs can do. I want to move out there. I want to go get Marshawn Lloyd in the leagues where I did not pick him up. I would move a late projected 25 second, no problem for him. Can I move a Dontavian Wicks from the same offense, a Tony Pollard, a Tajay Spears? As much as, we know those guys are going to get volume this year, I would rather move either one of those for Marshawn Lloyd. I feel that good about him.
You don't think A.J. Dillon poses a threat?
No, they gave him a really low contract, hardly any money guaranteed. He is fighting for a roster spot. I think he'll make the team because I don't think there's a ton behind him. But he is not guaranteed anything at this point.
That being said, if what Nate said is true, A.J. Dillon's fighting for a roster spot, man, this might be the cheapest you can get Marshawn Lloyd for a while. So definitely go scoop him up. Love everything you put together there, Nate. And now it's going to come as a shocker to you. I'm going to talk about a tight end, and that is Washington Commanders tight end Ben Sinnott. So he is currently behind the shell of Zach Ertz for snaps in the tight end spot. I mean, what does Zach Ertz really have left to offer? I understand he's a veteran presence, but Ben Sinnott, athletic, he's versatile, he's a good do-everything player. He's going to be a good player for a rebuilding Washington offense. I'm excited to see what the Commanders do on the field offensively this year. If you're not a believer in the Matt Canada offense version 2.0 in Pittsburgh with Arthur Smith coming in, you could move Pat Freiermuth, Chase Brown as well, and Dalton Schultz. All those guys are valued around Ben Sinnott right now. So let's see if we can make this one happen. I believe he was tight end 9 or 10 last year, tight end 10 if memory serves me correct. Nate, can we do Dalton Schultz for Ben Sinnott in a second?
I don't know if you can get a second on top of Sinnott.
What if it was a 26 second?
Maybe.
Yeah. A couple years out. What if it was
get a third back, something like that, maybe?
What if it was Schultz for Sinnott in a third?
I think you can make that happen.
Okay. All right.
But I'd rather get a third and get a second.
Yeah, that's true. So you're saying
Schultz and a third for Sinnott in a second?
Yeah, I would do that. And Nate, let's get to your next player. I like his landing spot, even though I wasn't the hugest fan of him at Washington. But who's your guy?
Yeah, this is a guy I come around to more recently, so I missed out on some of my early rookie drafts on getting this guy. But he's going at the end of the third round still. That's Jalen McMillan. Currently the wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I expect him to take over that wide receiver 3 role very quickly. He was picked in the third round, so he's got that good day 2 draft capital. They re-signed Baker Mayfield. There's no pressure for him to perform right away because they have Mike Evans or Chris Godwin in front of him, and they're moving Chris Godwin exclusively to the slot, which at first I was like, well, why are they doing that? Jalen McMillan is a slot receiver. I kind of had him graded out that way, but you know what? He played all over the field for Washington at the same time, so they're really excited about using Jalen McMillan as that Z receiver, as that flanker receiver. And if he can grow into that role with his ability to run routes, to get the ball near the line of scrimmage, I think, being the third target behind those 2 good wide receivers, I think there's something there with Jalen McMillan, especially when the biggest competition he has is Trey Palmer, who, we kind of liked last year, but I think Jalen McMillan is a much better wide receiver than Trey Palmer, who will now slot in as the wide receiver 4. This team is ascending, I think. The division has not been super strong over the past couple of years. They had a lot better year last year. I think this offense with Chris Godwin going back into the slot is also going to look pretty good, continue to look good. And I just think that this is a great opportunity for Jalen McMillan. I liked his abilities that he showed at Washington. And there was a lot of hype around him from scouts, GMs, analysts that if Jalen McMillan did not get hurt this past year, we probably would have felt a lot better about him going into the draft. So with all that being considered, him being a day 2 pick, and now the opportunity to be the bona fide wide receiver 3 for this team, I'm in on Jalen McMillan, and I think you can get him really cheap right now. You can move a 25 third for him. I think that would be no problem at all. You could move some other wide receivers, like a Michael Wilson, I think might be a little bit too much, but maybe you get Jalen McMillan and a 3rd round pick on top of it, because Michael Wilson is the wide receiver 2. For the Cardinals right now. I love Bateman, but maybe a Rashad Bateman for Jalen McMillan. Some wide receivers around that range where they're not significantly going to score points this year. They're not guaranteed to do that. So Jalen McMillan, take a shot on him.
Speaking of wide receivers, let's talk about a guy that, I don't have any shares of. I do still have a couple rookie drafts left, so let's see if maybe I can grab him. And that is new Buffalo Bills wide receiver 1, possibly Keon Coleman. Great spot. Gonna have ample opportunities because aside from that, it's Curtis Samuel, it's Khalil Shakir. That's it.
Yeah,
Is that as well?
Boise State boy.
And everything that I'm hearing, all reports indicate that he's looking really good in camps at this point, and teammates like him. Not a fantasy thing, but it builds rapport, and that can have long-term positive effects. And like I said, aside from him, who's their best wide receiver? I think their overall best wide receiver, as we alluded to on the last pod, is Dalton Kincaid. Almost said Dalton Schultz. He's not their best receiver at all. He's not even on the team. But is it Khalil Shakir? Is it Curtis Samuel? We don't know who their best wide receiver is per se. Maybe their best wide receiver isn't even on the team yet, Nate. We've seen trades go down all the time late in the offseason. So we are not sure yet. But that being said, he's valued around players right now, Nate. One of them I don't agree with. Two of them I do. And the two I agree with are Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, both good players. Probably could outscore Keon Coleman this year, but they are also declining assets at this point. They're getting on the later end of their career. Both guys I'd love to roster, but if I need to get younger, I would consider packaging them up. If I had her on Jaden Reed, I think that's a little too rich for me. I would prefer Jaden Reed over Keon Coleman. But here's a package that I put together, Nate. Tell me what you think. Devontae Adams for Keon Coleman and a second-round pick. Want to get a little younger there?
Yeah. No, I'm cool with that deal.
We got two more players here to talk about. Nate, who is your last rookie that you missed out on target?
Yeah, I got sniped on this guy a couple times, made me pretty angry. Ray Davis, running back for the Bills, currently going at the top of the 4th round. And he's in line for 100-plus carries this year, Mike, right away as a rookie. He's going to replace that role that Latavius Murray and Damian Harris had last year behind James Cook. This team is going to run the ball more as well. Over the second half of the season, they ran the ball a lot more. I expect that to continue based on the moves that they made this offseason, get moving on from Stephon Diggs, kind of thinning out that wide receiver core to have more mid-tier quality and not have that one guy they're relying on. They're going to run the ball more. And I like James Cook and his potential, but also really like Ray Davis being part of that. I don't know if it'll be a committee backfield right away, but I think he'll get enough touches where he's going to be relevant. He'll be in your starting lineup as a flex player a couple times as early as his rookie season. His playing style really complements James Cook's playing style really well. They're both good receivers, but Ray Davis a little bit stronger across the middle of the line, going between the tackles. James Cook a little bit faster, a little bit more shifty. I like the 1-2 punch that these guys can have together. I don't want to say, it's, comparing it to some other 1-2 punches. It's not quite Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, but I think Ray Davis can kind of play that Mark Ingram role between these two and how their play styles are. So I really like what Ray Davis is walking into. It's easy opportunity right away. The coaching staff has already talked quite positively about him. So Ray Davis, and you can get him right now. Darnell Mooney, J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson, Damon Pierce. I'm not looking to move to go and get any of those guys. So if I can move off of them and go get a guy like Ray Davis, who is super cheap right now, like I said, early 4th in rookie drafts, I'm moving any one of those guys to get a running back like Ray Davis.
This could be a guy that, depending on matchups, could be a flex starter for you. Could be like a running back 3, running back 4, depending on your team makeup and your league and how things are rostered. So I like this a lot, to be honest with you. And if you're moving these guys, definitely okay with all of that.
I think Ray Davis is one of the smartest picks you can make right now, late in rookie drafts.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's cheap too. Let's talk about my last guy, and that's Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Jermaine Burton. Is he an exceptional player, Nate? He is not. Does he do everything well enough? He sure does, and he's in a good spot. Tyler Boyd is gone. I guess the Bengals hate Charlie Jones and Andre Yoshivas because they drafted Jermaine Burton. I know, RIP to those guys. But like I said, he's got a chance to be the wide receiver 3. Jermaine Burton was a guy that when I scouted him, I remember thinking to myself, I don't see him do anything that flashes, but what I see is a guy who's just all around solid, a guy that I feel like NFL coaches will like. And, we got Jamar Chase, very flashy wide receiver. T. Higgins could not be on the team next year. So he could be wide receiver 3 this year. Wide receiver 2 for the Bengals next year. It's possible. Lined up outside or inside next to Jamar Chase would be fantastic. And right now you could move players like Nick Chubb, James Conner, Jacoby Myers, or a late second. That's his value on keep trade cut for a guy like Jermaine Burton. What about this? Nate, tell me what say ye. Jerry Jeudy, whatever his name is, for Jermaine Burton in a second. Or maybe
I would love to get that deal, but I don't think you're going to make that happen. I think I've actually been seeing Jermaine Burton go in the late second in rookie drafts more recently. His hype has grown since the draft. He's being valued about that 209, 210 in rookie drafts in some of them. So I think if you're trying to move Jerry Jeudy, maybe a third on top of Jermaine Burton to go get Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy's kind of a hard guy to move right now, though. But someone maybe of similar value who's a little bit easier to move, I think you could definitely get Jermaine Burton in the third on top.
I do want to get rid of Jerry Jeudy if I have him anywhere, though.
I know you do.
Everybody does. That's all we got for you today. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Dynasty Round. We're giving you a week for free in the Discord, Nate. That's insanity. Sheer insanity. Come check it out. Hop on in there. You can DM Nate and tell him anything you want. He likes stuff like that. So until next time, everybody, for Nate, I'm Mike. Thank you for listening.